right, you're welcome back. This, of course, is Wednesday edition of
You want to
TVC
take us
Breakfast.
backwards?
Can you imagine that? Somebody needs to wake up around here. All right, now the end of final exams is usually an exciting time for many secondary school students in Nigeria, but for some students of the Falamo Senior High School, Ikoyi, Lagos, it was a different story.
Now, on May the 3rd, schoolgirls were allegedly attacked, manhandled by male students of a neighboring school in broad daylight. Now, many parents and civil rights activists are already calling for the prosecution of the students involved.
We're now joined by Executive Director Project Alert on Violence Against Women, Josephine Chukuma. Good morning, and it's good to have you on the show. Thank you. Now, this seems to be a new low that the Nigerian society has gotten to. How did we get here, where young people, school leavers on the final day of school, think that the way to celebrate leaving school is to gang rape a female student?
It's not necessarily a new law in the sense that, I mean, if you look at it from sexual violence perspective, I mean, we've been shouting, some of us have been shouting, we've been tagged alarmists, you know, that we have an epidemic on our hands.
I say it's a new law. I mean, this was done in broad daylight.
I mean, why I'm saying it's not a new law is that, I mean, students, starting even in our own time, when you drop your pen, like, everybody goes crazy. But not this type of craziness, you know. You see people writing on their uniforms, removing the boys will remove, they have their vest on, they remove their shirts.
The extremes last time was for someone to go drinking.
Yeah, you understand, and all
for
that.
The boys.
But yes, it's worrisome that this is broad daylight. People were watching. People were actually trying to record, more interested in recording than saving the situation. It shows you, I mean, what the all low, really, we have gotten to, whereby crime has become normalized. Rape is a crime. Attempted rape. Okay, they didn't rape, but they attempted it. That was sexual abuse. It's a crime. Indecent assault in law. It's there. And people were cheering and people were trying to, you know, record and save those girls. If not for that lady, that citizen, who was just getting into her car and said, no, I can't go, something is going on. And then she came out and she took it up.
Who should take responsibility for this kind of a situation? I mean, in reading up on this and the events that led to this, we hear that it's not actually the first time. It seems to be the norm, and the female students every time have to protect themselves extra, just to avoid such situations. There
are those that should take immediate responsibilities and those that should take general responsibility. Generally, we all are failing. I'm saying this with all sense of responsibility. We all, as parents, as pastors, as community leaders, as whoever we are, politicians, government, we are failing. Because like you asked, how did we get here? Whereby young people would be committed, they know what they are doing is wrong. They definitely know what they are doing is wrong. But they are still, it's like a suicide mission. And they are still on it and people are cheering them. Immediately the schools should be held responsible. Immediately the schools, government, because these are state government schools. I mean, can you imagine them saying that this is not the first time? So if not the first time, now we want to know what steps have been taken. You know, if they know that this has been happening, what have they, is it that they just sat down, folded their hands, and nobody said anything?
And that was why it degenerated in the first place, because it wasn't curtailed the first time.
Exactly. I mean, when you don't nip a problem in the bud, you know, and you live in denial and everyone is burying his or her nose in the ground, what are you doing? You're only succeeding in allowing the problem to grow. The monster grows, you know, the problem becomes more deep-rooted. And then everybody starts shouting.
All right. Now, how more complicated is this issue when it comes to the process of prosecution and getting young boys who are not even adults yet getting involved in a criminal attempt like this? How more complicated is it?
Well, it all depends on the ages of the kids. Okay. I mean, in government, public schools like that, some of those kids are not kids. They are 19, 20. According to the child rights law, you're a child is anyone below age 18. Okay. From 18, you do a crime, you do the time. That should be the right way to go. If they are below 18, then they are children in conflict with the law. You understand? But still, there are procedures for dealing with that. You know, in terms of how to arraign them, where, you know, not in public, whatever, and, you know, all those processes below 18. So the first thing is to establish the ages of those kids. Okay. And something tells me that they may be more than 18. So if they are 18 and above, they are adults. Then they should
face the full wrath.
Face the full wrath of the law. If they are below 18, what happens then? I mean, these are grievous offenses.
They are juveniles. Do you understand? Yes. They are in conflict with the law. There are processes, there are procedures for dealing with. I mean, they can't be given a pat on the back. They can't be given a pat on the back. That was a wrong thing to do. Our kids need to grow up learning this word responsibility. Responsibility. Because the more we allow our kids, our children, do things and get away with it. Of course, they can't be punished the way an adult is punished, but they must be made to realize that they've done something wrong. Their parents should be made to realize that they are failing or they have failed. We are failing. We have failed, as a matter of fact, in relation to protecting our children. Nigerian children, girls, are the most endangered species in the country today, honestly.
This really leaves one totally speechless. Yeah. When you hear from the police, the Lagos Police Command, for example, that this was not a case of rape. I'm wondering, is it not too early for them to reach that conclusion? I mean, you had boys who were actually trying to have their way with
nobody ever reported rape in the first instance. That woman, Michael Matthews, I've seen the video. She's been making, she has made, I mean, her post went viral. She never said they raped. They were attempting to rape. So the police even saying that there's no rape. Nobody reported rape, for crying out loud. This was sexual abuse in public. This was attempted rape where one of the boys had his trouser almost down. Another one used the scissors and ripped the girl's skirt. I mean, there are several things, I mean, several laws, I mean, provisions to use in catching them. Indecent assault, attempted rape, several, I mean, so what? Nobody reported rape from all what I've read anyway. I'm yet to see anywhere where somebody said nobody reported rape. There was indecent assault. There was attempted rape in public view. So where did the issue of rape come up?
All right, let's see from the side of the family where all the values even start from in the first place. Because I was discussing with someone yesterday and they said the way a girl child is handled and protected and packaged for the society should be the same way boys are, because if you allow the boys to go out there because they are guys and all of that, so what do you...
The socialization pattern.
Exactly. How do you see the way that boys are allowed to be free in the home and then the girls are kept to be, you know, to be in the home?
Yeah, it's something as an issue I've been raising, is something Project Alert has been talking about, is too much attention is being placed on the girl child. No attention is placed on the boy child. We are also fixated on bringing up a good girl. Sit well, stand well, eat well, everything do well. Well, the boy
is free.
Is free
to decide
Come
how
on,
he behaves.
Go sow your wild oats. He's a boy, don't bother. You know, in our own times, I tell people, I grew up in Lagos in the 70s. I tell people, the fear of our parents then was a girl going to get pregnant. You see the mother of a boy saying, what's my own? If he goes and impregnates a girl, the girl will take it to her mother and her father, I beg. I'm not bothered about that. The fear and the concern now is not pregnancy. Pregnancy is child's play. Really, it's child's play compared to HIV, AIDS, and several other things. Indeed. And now we are seeing the manifestations of not bringing up our boys well. And when we keep being fixated on bringing up our girls well, the question I ask is, who is the girl going to marry at the end of the day?
Or who will become the politician?
That bad boy. That bad boy you left. So when you are sending your boys out, there's this thing about the chicken coming back home to roost. You're sending your boys out, you're keeping your girls. Of course, your boys in going out are going to go philandering with somebody else's daughter. Of
who
course,
has been kept.
Of course,
and
you
is a
can't
good
be.
girl.
Of course, you are not in control of the other ones too who have been sent out. They'll come to yours.
Exactly.
And those
That's the way it
boys
works.
will turn out
That's
to
the way it
become the politicians.
Oh
of
yeah, the
tomorrow,
politician,
the
the
senator,
fathers, and all that, and the vicious circle continues.
Now, Josephine, we have a Ministry for Youth and Social Development, and you know, when things like this happen, you wonder what the job of this particular department of government really is. And then, of course, the Ministry of Education is within the purview of the Deputy Governor of the state. I go back to the question I asked you earlier. Who should be taking responsibility if we are told that this is not the first time that such a thing is happening within the school system? It's not only this Ireti High School
and Falomo,
you know, grammar school and the rest of them. It's happening everywhere.
You see, for a problem like this, there's need for integrated response. But of course, the first ministry that should take responsibility is education, because these are students in a school, from a school. Ministry of Education, Ministry of Youth, Ministry of Justice. So, I mean, in responding to this, for instance, it should be, like I said, an integrated response, with the first ministry being education, and then youth. Because these are young people committing acts of violence in an educational, around an educational environment. So these three, or these two especially, education and youth.
Now, speaking of which, where do you draw the line between what is sexual, what really constitutes sexual violence or sexual assault? Is it when a penetration has happened, or
and
when there's an attempt?
that's exactly where the police, in my belief, made a mistake. Because people, when they hear sexual violence or sexual abuse, their mind normally goes to rape. Rape is number 10 on the list, if it's on a list of 1 to 10. There is indecent exposure, there is sexual harassment, there is incest. No, there are several. It's a wide this thing. So sexual violence is basically, sexual abuse is basically any act, any sexual act that takes place or attempts to take place, I'm just defining it simply, without the consent of the person being forced to do that. Do you understand? The key words there being sexual and consent, sort of. So it has to be sexual, whereby, I mean, even showing sexual harassment by way of showing me pornographic movies and all that, and I keep telling you, stop it, I'm not interested in it, please leave me alone. You need to respect my boundaries. You need to stop, you know. And what you're seeing on Facebook now, honestly, let me just quickly mention, it's frightening to me.
Scary.
I'm almost going off that Facebook because it's become, I don't know if people are just doing it to get traffic to their pages. To their TL, I don't know. But we are seeing a lot of young boys, below 30 to teens, posting horrible things like, teach me how to rape. No. I feel like raping a girl. She loved me until I raped her. I mean, I don't really get it, because you do, when we're growing up, you do these things, you hide, but people are now doing things.
The shock value is no longer there. That's what it looks like. And society is the worst for it.
We have to leave it there for now. Josephine Chukwuma, the Executive Director of Project Alert on Violence Against Women. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
Of course, we'll be joined shortly by the Permanent Secretary of the Lagos State Government. Of course, we'll still be looking deeper into this gang rape in a Lagos school. Stay with us.
All right, let's get into our discussion now. South Korea's new liberal president, Moon Jae-in, has vowed to immediately tackle the difficult tasks of addressing North Korea's advancing nuclear ambitions and soothing tensions with the United States and China.
Yes, indeed. Whether he can actually achieve that is another question. Nneka Ozoadibe has more on developments in South Korea, but would like to warn that the report contains scenes with flash photography.
More than 2 decades after he helped lead the country to its first democratic elections, Moon Jae-in is South Korea's new president after a victory that left his nearest opponents trailing in his wake. Moon replaces former President Park Geun-hye, who was ejected from office in March after a corruption scandal for which is awaiting trial. South Korea's National Election Commission says Moon won 41.1% of total votes counted.
The National Election Commission, according to the Public Election Act 187, Section 1, hereby announces that the presidential candidate of the Democratic Party, Moon Jae-in, is elected as the president.
The election result was determined by voters who said corruption, North Korea, the economy, and youth unemployment were major issues for them.
I think change is good overall. There's been so many problems with Korean presidents since the very first one. So hopefully this change will be something different, something new, like everyone's hoping.
Mr. Moon has advocated greater dialogue with North Korea while maintaining pressure and sanctions. This means his presidency may represent a real shift in attitude towards North Korea. He has also talked of reforming South Korea's huge family-run conglomerates. His stance on several issues makes it difficult to say what his tenure will mean for South Korea and relations with other countries like the US.
I will be a president for everyone. I will be the president that also serves all the people who did not support me.
President Moon took the oath of office in a simple ceremony in the Parliament building, leaving South Koreans hopeful for change. Neko Zadibe, TVC News.
All right, joining us now on Skype from the United Kingdom is a research fellow with the Sussex University, Uche Igwe. Dr. Uche Igwe, it's good to have you join us this morning.
Very much.
All right. I know you've been following developments in South Korea. One of the top promises by President-elect Moon Jae-in is to reconcile or find a way to have a discussion with North Korea. That's really ambitious, but how challenging do you think that will be?
Well, I think it's going to be challenging because of course, the antecedents of the leader of North Korea. But in another dimension, I think it is positive. It is positive to have a less adversarial and reconciliatory approach, to the issues of North Korea. And somebody will say very quickly, this does not run consistent with the Trump approach, to the North Korean issues. And come to think about it, it may just affect the relationship between, South Korea and the United States. But it's going to be for a while because Trump presidency, as I'm sure you're aware, is not the most popular presidency in the United Kingdom at the moment. So that's my view. For me, the background of the new president of South Korea as a human rights lawyer and pro-democracy activist is a very huge plus. South Korea has elected someone who understands the history, and I think that it will lead to a sure improvement with relationship with North Korea, which will make really the Korean people better off, economically and otherwise.
Okay, well, I wonder what you make of the statement coming from Moon Jae-in that it's time to say no to the United States instead of allowing the U.S. and China make decisions over the Korean Peninsula, and talking about the two Koreas, North and South. What do you make of that statement?
Well, I think he's a politician. I am certain that he is trying to reflect the pulse of the Korean people. And if you look at the margin, 41% or so that he used to win, you will notice that is, a hotly contested election, and his victory really confirms that those kind of rhetorics are the rhetorics that, that the Korean people want at the moment. I think that the issue of looking internally and not allowing, the big players to begin to suppress them is a positive thing. Like I said, I think it will be good for Korean people, both North and South, in the long term. And I also think that it is what the Korean people want. Unity is going to be less expensive, is going to, I mean, come to think about it, Korean people are one people, North or South. So if, the whole issue of, and, another important perspective is that, the big players are leveraging on the division, when one big country supports this one, the North at this time, the other big country supports the South, I don't think that at the end of the day, the divide and rule will benefit the Korean people. So yes, I support the president in his new position to allow the Korean people talk to themselves in a less adversarial manner and unite themselves and not allow the United States and China of this world to dictate for them. So it's positive if you ask me.
All right. If we see things from the power play, the balance of power between the countries in there, what disposition do you think the North Korean president will have towards the new South Korean president when the new president in the South wants to extend the hand of friendship to the North?
Well, I think that, nobody can predict what the North Korean leader, if you notice, he's sort of an unpredictable kind of person. But I also think that the issue of, not allowing the external players to dictate for them will be something he will welcome. I think that in a way, part of the reasons why the president of South Korea advanced that dimension, that rhetoric, is also to extend the hand of friendship. Say, look, my brother, we cannot allow the big players to dictate for us and divide us. So I think that, in the long term, I believe that as unpredictable as the North Korean president is, he may realize, the positive things, in having to look inwards and advance peace with his brother and neighbor, South Korea. So I think that in the long run, that may be, the magic, getting South Korea and North Korea to come to the table in the nearer future.
And this liberal president, is that what South Korea really needs at this time? Including North Korea too, come to think of it. He's saying he's ready to actually visit North Korea and, have discussions. But do you think he really has the political clout or even the capital to be able to pull this off?
We are not, it is too close, it is too early in the day to begin to find out whether, his direction of thinking and vision will get political traction. What is most important is that he is the president, he has been elected, and he's been declared president. So what is going to happen in the coming weeks will really, determine whether his popularity will increase or decrease. If you ask me, just on top of my head, the kind of approach he is taking to ward off, external influence and to talk to his neighbor is something that will, connect to ordinary Korean people, North and South. And for me, my prediction would be that he will become more popular politically, by the stance he's taking. But who knows, in the next coming weeks, like I said, it is too early, to determine. We'll just have to watch and follow up the developments.
Okay.
All right, Dr. Uche Igwe, Senior Research Fellow at the University of Sussex in the UK, thank you for talking to us right now.
Thank you, I really appreciate it.
Right. Let's go on a break and then we come back to dwell on other issues. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast.
All right, now to our next discussion. The Central Bank of Nigeria has introduced a 100 Naira monthly maintenance fee for Naira-denominated debit card in the country. Now, there's also a 50 Naira charge for other months, whether the card is used or not.
Now, the Director of Financial Policy and Regulation Department, the CBN, Kevin Amugo, says the Apex Bank is reviewing the extant guide to bank charges, which came into effect in 2013. Now, the new charge is separate from the existing 65 Naira charge after the third withdrawal within the same month.
The Apex Bank also introduced a 4,200 Naira per annum charge on foreign currency denominated cards as maintenance fee and a 50 Naira charge on every check leaflet obtained and used.
You're saying you are going cashless. You say even I use the card or not. You're not giving me an option. I mean, in other countries, it's optional for you to obtain a debit card, to operate your debit card or not. It's only when you use your debit card you are charged. You are not telling me mandatory. Every month. It's not every year. And we are in recession. We are crying. The masses are crying that things are hard. And the CBN that is supposed to make cashless, you need to make the cashless policy attractive so that every Nigerian will embrace it.
Okay, joining us now is a forensic accountant, Oriade Adeyemo. Good morning and thanks for joining us on the show.
Good morning. Good morning.
What do you make of this at a time when the Central Bank of Nigeria at least tells us that it's looking for ways to draw the unbanked customer into the banking system? And then you come up with all this, back and forth. What do we make of it?
Well, what I see is that there is a big crisis in the banking industry. And what the CBN is now doing is CBN is looking for ways to enrich the bottom line of these banks and at the expense of the average Nigerian. Because a lot of the fees being provided by CBN for banks to charge their customers, to me, they are a total rip-off. They are needless. It is the same CBN that says, oh, we want to move from cashless
policy,
from Naira to a cashless policy and all what sorts. They came up with some policy to say if you withdraw beyond X amount of money from your corporate account, banks will charge you so interest, penalty if you either from your corporate account or individual account, and that the penalty will be shared between the concerned banks as well as the CBN. But I've always said it that look, no bank in Nigeria has any power whatsoever to impose any penalty whatsoever on Nigerians.
So where do they get this powers from?
I don't know, because I know that the CBN does not have the power to ask any bank in Nigeria to impose any penalty on its customer. In the event that the CBN does not really understand what I'm saying, they should refer to the matter between Alhaji Adam Sajabule versus Union Bank as delivered by the Supreme Court on the 16th of December 2011. So said, no bank in Nigeria can do that. And there are plethora of authorities, precedents, to support both local and foreign to support my position. So now, the way I look at it is this. Look at CBN. When the current Emir of Kano, Alhaji Sanusi, was the CBN governor, he made a policy. He said, look, by December 31, 2015, Commission on Turnover, which is based on withdrawal, will gradually move from 3 naira per mil, that is 3 naira per 1,000 naira pro rata, based on withdrawal, to 1 naira. 3 naira per mil in 2013, 2 naira per mil in 2014, 1 naira per mil in 2015.
Okay, sorry. Let me put you on hold. Let me put you on hold, because the point you're making now is very vital, but we have to go on a break and then we come back for you to take it up from there. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast. We're looking at the banks and the charges. Stay with us.
And you've been updated. Back to our discussion, of course, with Oriade Adeyemo, is a forensic accountant.
All right, let's get into this issue. Before we went on break, you were taking us on a journey to understanding what former CBN governor, the policies he was putting up, reducing the charges from one level to the other.
Yes. Thank you. You know, when the current Emir was the CBN governor, in the CBN guide, if you go to the CBN guide to revised guide to bank charges of 1st of April 2013, it said for 2013, the maximum COT rate is 3 naira per mil, pro rata. 2014, 2 naira per mil. 2015, 1 naira per mil. By 2016, 0. Now, immediately, this current CBN governor came in, Emefiele. Emefiele came up with another idea to enrich the banks by introducing what he called account maintenance fee. Now, what the account maintenance fee seeks to achieve is exactly what COT, Commission on Turnover, which was abrogated by Sanusi, is meant to do. So now we now have a what I call policy somersault, but based on what I call a conspiracy between the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, as well as the Nigerian banking industry. Why? All because these guys, the banks, have to make money, free money.
Is there a link between this move by the CBN? Like you say, it's a conspiracy between the CBN and the DMBs, the deposit money banks, and the withdrawal or the moving of government funds from the banks to the central bank. Is that the underlying factor here? Because those banks always relied on government monies to function.
Yes, yes. I agree with you. The banks relied on government money to function. But even before this issue of TSA came into being, they have been charging COT. And see, all these banks too, they have been stealing customers' money every time. You know, using financial gimmicks. So for me, what I feel is that, look, the banking industry, they are going through a very bad time presently. Most of the so-called risk assets they have, which they say customers allege debts, they're just mere allegations. No bank in Nigeria can prove any allegation of debt against any customer. Let me repeat it again. I repeat. I wash my lips. I said no bank in Nigeria can prove any debt allegation against any customer. Wow. Now, I will explain.
Please do.
I will explain. Now, pursuant to the provision of Section 51 of the 1st of June 1945 Evidence Act, as amended on the 26th of July 2011.
Did you say 1945?
1945, sir. 1945. As amended on the 26th of July 2011. Section 51 thereof says that any statement of account, whether in hard copy or in soft copy, to which a court of competent jurisdiction will have the opportunity of making an inquiry into, is admissible in evidence. But however, such shall not form the basis of any liability against any party, except the entire contents therein is proven beyond the preponderance of doubt.
Wow.
So in other words, the onus of proof or the burden of proof of any alleged indebtedness against any customer lies on the maker or the asserter, which is the bank.
Okay. We'll come to have that, because this is taking us really deeper. Let's bring Foladele to give us a reaction fast before we go on this discussion in here. Fola, good morning.
Good morning, Ngozi.
I can see a big Naira note bill behind you.
Yes, but they want to take 100 Naira out of it. So I'm excited about that. But let's find out how Nigerians are reacting. And believe me, they're not finding this one funny. Ernest Enekwechi says, Nigerian banks are now ripping Nigerians off of their money in the name of bank charges and stamp duty. Please, government intervention is needed. Mr. Graphic says, if only you're from Nigeria, you will know how painful it is to receive debit alerts you don't even understand from your bank. Latanya says CBN governor is bonkers. All over the world, recession is time for quantitative easing to improve liquidity, not for extra tax burden and charges. Jonathan Ukute says the central banks is more interested in protecting the banks than the masses because there's always a new charge to be paid. Oriade, quickly, do you agree with that?
Yes.
That the central banks are more interested in protecting the banks.
The banks, yes, that's correct.
Masses, yeah.
I agree.
Next one from Kazman, who says, who is CBN governor, please? We need to talk. Chukuma Eziashi says, the way the CBN governor thinks and acts, I'm beginning to wonder if he lives in Nigeria. ATM charge, stamp duty, monthly maintenance fee. Arinze Chukwune says, in time of depression, Nigeria's government and CBN are busy causing hardship on common Nigerians. And the last one here from Ibrahim Samuel Gbale, who says CBN should clarify these charges. Are the charges for those who used the ATM or those who didn't during the month, or both? That is a fair question. I mean,
really
should I get charged if I didn't use my ATM card? You know, but I was talking to someone actually, Oriade, really quickly before I go, because I know you were getting in a very deep discussion. But I was talking to someone who said, oh, it's 100 naira. Nigerians, you know, Nigerians won't feel it. But that's for Nigerians who have jobs. That's for Nigerians who can afford that. But I mean, we're talking about Nigerians who are willing to go to their own banks to withdraw just to avoid the percentage that comes out. So what do you think about that statement? Nigerians won't feel it because it's just 100 naira.
Yes, you see, that is part of the rip-off I've been talking about. If you want to, you are saying you want to move from an economy that uses cash for transactions to a cashless economy. What the CBN ought to do is to ensure that they make the electronic transactions not only affordable, but they should also make it very attractive.
Right.
And efficient.
And efficient. You will recall that when they started with this ATM stuff, a lot of Nigerians lost their money to the ATM scam going on then, where you are inside your house with your ATM card, someone is making
some transactions
using your ATM, and you are with your ATM card.
It's still happening. At least I experienced it early this year.
Yes. and up till now, nothing has been done. Now, when Sanusi was there, he came up with a policy of 100 naira for usage of ATM. Nigerians cried out, he reduced it to 65. Nigerians cried out, he cancelled it. This man came, Emefiele, he restated 65. Now they're saying that even on the 65, it has to be after 3 uses. But lo and behold,
but that is not what
that's not what is happening.
Every transaction, there's a deduction.
They charge you.
Okay. Everything, deposit, withdrawal, everything. And we also have to talk about how POSs don't work everywhere as well, so you still have to go withdraw.
Exactly. Yes. Fola, thank you very much. I have to let you go here now. Now, Oriade, there's just so much to talk about.
Yes, indeed.
But as we cap it up right now, what is the way forward? We expect that with all of this, because what they are doing tend to be illegal from what you were quoting earlier.
Apparently.
So how do we handle this? Nobody's suing the central bank. Nobody's suing the banks to court.
There's no class action.
Now, let me tell you something. Ordinarily, I, for one, will have loved to involve myself in class action, but with the experience of the Office of the Fair Trade in England against banks, where they won billions of pounds, but the banks went to court to say, look, if we are to refund all these monies to these customers, the entire economy will go down. Now, that was when I decided to step down on the use of class action for remedy. Consequently, my proposition is that if anybody is aggrieved, if any customer is aggrieved, please write to the bank. let the bank know, oh, sorry, it's either I did not utilize this, I wasn't involved in this transaction, this service was not rendered to me, I want my money back within 14 days. Failure wish, go to court.
All right.
We'll have to leave it there. Forensic accountant Uriade Ademo, thanks for looking at this with us. I'm sure we'll have you back here again to talk more about this.
These issues are on.
All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, still talking about the Lagos school gang rape.
Now let's get into our discussion proper. We have been following the attempted rape by students of secondary school in Nigeria, in Lagos, let me say. We have the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education in Lagos State, Dishina DMO, with us right here. It's good to have you join us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, this development is really disturbing to parents, to society, to people, or everyone who heard this development. But from the side of the Ministry of Education, we have heard that this is not the first time that kind of outroar, not necessarily attempted rape, but this kind of thing from students is happening. Tell us from the side of the ministry, what action is being taken so far right now, if you have to bring us up to speed.
Yes, thank you. Wednesday last week, we heard of the incident. In fact, it was the following day. We didn't get to know of it until Thursday. And we moved to that school. Eventually, the principal, we got some brief from the principal, and we followed, and eventually we were able to get one of the students, who of course was handed over to the police, and the police now took him around to, of course, go and identify the boys that actually perpetrated that act. And as I speak to you, those students are in custody. The police have been mandated to carry out investigation, and the government has said that those students who, of course, perpetrated those acts must face justice, and that's the position of government.
It still beats the imagination that, you know, just hearing that this has been going on over time. Are you saying that the Ministry of Education in Lagos State never heard or had any inkling that such a thing was going on in schools?
I will tell you the truth. In actual fact, we have not heard of such in our school before. This is the very first time. Because Lagos State government is a very proactive government. If you've heard of a similar thing in the past, we'll have taken some decisive action to ensure that we bring our students in line, to ensure that they do the proper thing. Because the state government spend a lot of money to put infrastructure in place, to recruit teachers, to provide laboratories, so as we can have effective teaching and learning taking place in our schools. So if we have heard of such behavior taking place in our school in the past, we will have acted decisively. Then
there's a question of whether, if indeed the students, the perpetrators, are minors, under 18 or above 18, what happens then? What kind of prosecution should we expect? Because the coordinator of the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence team says Nigerians should expect prosecution in this case.
Yes, if they are minor, there are ways that we can treat such minor. I mean, the kind of punishment will not be the kind that will be given out to the major. But of course, anyone that is an adult, 18 and above, of course, there are procedures too that will go through. So, but if they are minor, of course, they will be taken to remand homes to ensure that we give them the kind of orientation so that when they come out, they will not, of course, go back to such vices.
Okay, now besides the issue of the law and all of that, if we talk about policy within the ministry, what is the ministry doing now to ensure this doesn't happen again?
When this incident happened, a press release was released by government, and we said, as a government, we have taken responsibility to care for these children. And we shouldn't forget that these children, they come to school probably at 8 o'clock and they leave at 2. That's just 6 hours, or let's even say 4 p.m. That's 8 hours in the day. Now we have 16 hours which these children will spend with their parents or guardian. Government has said parents and guardians must be alive to their responsibility. Because for these children, or for these students to develop into very responsible adults, we must nurture them from now. Government is prepared to do their own bit. The parents must also do theirs, and the society in general must also contribute. Because in the past, we know that 2 people give birth to a child. But it is the responsibility of all of us to nurture that child from infancy to I mean, but we have left that, that value. We must go back to our family value to ensure that we all are responsible citizens. Because what becomes of our tomorrow is what we are seeing this.
So I wonder how you're going to go about that. The Lagos state government has said the school authorities should not be frowned upon if they take responsibility or took responsibility in ensuring that such a situation does not occur anymore. The question is it that the school authorities did not even have systems in place in the first place to avoid or prevent such occurrence, such indiscipline from happening?
I will tell you, we have systems in place. When students do anything wrong, there are procedures to follow. Students can be suspended, they can even be expelled. And of course, you can also give punishment. It depends on the kind of the level of gravity of the offense. Those are in place. Now, in this particular case, these students finish their exams, and the teachers and the principals, of course, let the students out of the school premises, even to the extent of, because we have Ikoyi prison as a neighbor to that school, up to the gate of the Ikoyi prison. Behold, when they left that premises and they now went to, there's a street they call, I think, Noah Williams Way.
Norman Williams?
Norman Williams. That was when they now let out the atrocities. So the principals don't get to know that that actually took place on that day, because they finished the exam, I think, about 5 p.m. on that day. So eventually, when she got to know about it the following, when he got to know about it the following day, he now acted by inviting some of the students. It was then they were able to identify one of them, who of course led to the others being arrested. So we have even told the principals and the teachers that they must be alive to their responsibilities. There are procedures for disciplined students. They must ensure that such is followed to the letter. So if any student contravenes any of the laws, the next punishment must be meted out. So we are not, we have such a system in place, and we ensure that our principals and teachers follow the laid down rules and regulations to ensure that we maintain discipline in all our schools. Because at the end of the day, the government is spending huge resources on these students, simply because we want them to be better citizens tomorrow. And if we are not achieving that, then it means all the resources that government is spending is going down the drain, and we are not happy about it.
All right. Well, this is where how much time will permit us to discuss for today, but we look forward to following this up as we get along. Additional Odeyemi, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education. Thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Right. Okay, this is where we come to the end of today's edition of the program. Tomorrow, we'll be back again. But have a great day ahead. I am Mike Okwache.
And I am Ngozi Alebu. Have a beautiful day.
Society. You see this kind of
welcome to Sports on the Breakfast Show. I'm Solomon Ajiziogo. Italian champion Juventus have reached their second UEFA Champions League final in 3 years after defeating French club Monaco 4-1 on aggregate, leading 2-0 from the first leg. Juve defeated Monaco 2-1 in Turin to seal the win. Striker Mario Mandzukic scored the opening goal, and Brazilian defender Dani Alves made it 2 just before half-time. Despite the loss for Monaco, young star Kylian Mbappe upstaged Obafemi Martins as the youngest player to score in the semi-final of the Champions League. The Italian giants will play in the final in Cardiff next month against the winner of the second semi-final clash between 11-time champions Real Madrid and their city rivals Atletico on Wednesday. Now, Atletico Madrid is seeking to overturn a 3-0 deficit when they clash with their more illustrious city rivals Real on Wednesday in the second leg of the UEFA Champions League semi-final. Real won the first leg 3-0, courtesy of a hat-trick by Cristiano Ronaldo. It is another meeting between both Madrid rivals in 4 consecutive Champions League seasons. Keeping their hopes alive, thousands of Atletico fans trooped to the Calderon on Tuesday to psych up their players in their final training session ahead of the game. Now, Arsenal could move a step closer to a top 4 finish and a UEFA Champions League place if they beat Southampton at St. Mary's tonight. The Gunners could also draw Manchester United back to the 5th position if they win, coming on the back of a 2-0 victory over United. Can Arsenal do that? Now, that's a question Toby Olubi, a level 2 coach in training at the Kent FA, will answer for us from London. Good to have you join us, Toby.
Good morning, Solomon.
Yeah, can Arsenal win this match tonight?
I believe they can. An away game against Southampton is a difficult place to go by any means, but given the stake that is on ground, given that Arsenal need to win this game, if they want to stand any chance, any mathematical chance that is of qualifying for the Champions League, they need to win at St. Mary's tonight. I believe they can because lately they've been on a very high resurgence, defeating Man City, defeating Manchester United. It just goes to show you that they know what to do when the stakes are high. So I believe they can get the result at St. Mary's tonight. Especially with the way Southampton played against Liverpool at the weekend, they were so poor, they couldn't even get a shot on target in 90 minutes. So it shows you that Southampton, they are in a safe place, they have nowhere to go now, and Arsenal really need all 3 points to even get close to the top 4 finish. So I believe Arsenal will do a thing tonight to get a victory against Southampton.
Where is this optimism coming from for you? Because Arsenal haven't been good travellers in the last 10 games, and especially against Southampton at St. Mary's.
Well, it has to be the run in the FA Cup. It also has to be the victory against United last weekend. It just shows you that, and also the change of system. I think the change of system has benefited the team in a way. They've been more responsible at the back, conceding not too many goals as they would. I was surprised Manchester United came to the Emirates and they couldn't even score a goal. So it shows you this Arsenal team in the last few games of the season are beginning to show that side that we have not seen in a while. So that's where the optimism is coming from, really, because they know it is make or break. We've seen Arsenal in this situation before, and they've done it. So I believe they will also get it done tonight.
Now let's talk about the bigger game tonight, and that is the UEFA Champions League. Do you think it's done and dusted for Real Madrid against Atletico at the Calderon tonight?
Atletico Madrid threw my predictions in the basket last week. I was rooting for them, thinking they would get a result at the Bernabeu so they can finish things off tonight at the Vicente Calderon. But unfortunately, my octopus wasn't seeing the right thing. So I'm thinking it's done and dusted for Real Madrid. 3 goals in the first leg. I think they cannot overturn that deficit. If I thought they'll win tonight, that's Atletico Madrid. If I thought they'll win tonight, I don't think they can get in 3 goals against Real Madrid without Real Madrid scoring at the Vicente Calderon. Mind you, it's also the last European game at the Vicente Calderon. They'll be moving to another stadium, and it just shows you how Atletico Madrid has risen in the last few years. There's a lot of money in football now, and clubs are building the stadiums. Tottenham doing the same thing. So I wish them well, but I don't think they can qualify to the finals. I think it's Real Madrid Juventus final.
Well, thank you very much there, Toby Olubi, all the way from Kent Football Association there in England. That's all of sports at this time.